Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you again. If it's your first time here, as always, it's good to see you. Today we're going to do a little bit of a tech video, hence the vinyl gloves. As you may have noticed in one of my previous gameplay videos, I decided to use the APS carbine kit, which primarily works off a G18 or G17 based pistol replica, which is in my case gas blowback. And what I noticed is I had a leaky magazine, and a gas blowback leaky magazine is a common fault that you may come across. So before we delve into that one, as always, if you are enjoying my series of videos, then please subscribe and then you'll never miss any of my uploads. I'll try normally to upload a gameplay video as long as I get to a game midweek, and then every weekend we'll do one of our regular videos, either on a Saturday or a Sunday, where we discuss and look at everything Airsoft related, from gear to replicas and reviews, tech, that type of thing. If you want any further content from me, as always, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. So if you enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like on there, it helps me out. And at the end of the video, if you do have any questions or any further comments that you want to make, then drop a comment below and I'll always try and get back to you. So let's get straight into it. So what are we looking at? Well, this is a G18C based magazine, also the same magazine you'll find in a G17 series replica as well. It's a green gas magazine, it's not CO2. Now, the issue you can have with these magazines is that they can eventually start to leak. It's not really a big issue. It's not worth buying a new magazine over. It's quite an easy fix, and that's what we are going to do together today. So, when you're doing these magazines, it's worth noting that you can help prevent leaks starting with some basic maintenance. So if you happen to have a replica, whether it be a G series pistol or any other gas blowback with a green gas magazine, the theory is the same. You've got a number of valves on here and seals that all try to keep the gas contained within the magazine. So when you've finished a game day, I'd always recommend to wipe down your magazine and clean it off. Make sure it's nice and clean, there's no dirt in it. You don't want any of your follower or anything getting jammed up, or anything getting jammed in these valves. And then what I would normally do is put a splash of silicone oil onto this rubber seal here. This seals to the gun, so obviously you want that to be nice and flexible, and they can dry out if you're not going to use them for a while. So I'd always rub a splash of oil around the top there. I would also dab a bit of oil onto the valve there to stop any seals inside there drying out, and it's always worth putting a dab of oil into the fill valve as well. And that's it for basic maintenance. That should help prevent most of the problems you're going to get with a green gas magazine, just by having them lubricated. Always keep a little bit of gas in them. You don't have to keep them full, but just ensure there's a little bit of gas in them, because the gas will help maintain the seals from the inside of the magazine as well. Green gas has silicone lubricant in it. If you're using propane, then you may want to strip the magazines periodically and oil up all of your seals. But if you're using green gas, just keep a little bit of gas in it as well, and that will also help to keep your seals lubricated. Now, this particular magazine, if you can notice it on camera, is a Nuprol Raven magazine. Now, I know in the communities these magazines have a bad reputation. They are quite cheap, quite affordable. I've got a number of these, which I use in a couple of Ravens that I have for testing purposes, and also in my WE based replicas as well. These magazines I've found can leak more regular than the WE magazines. That's not to say that the WE magazines don't leak as well. However, a common fault with these Raven magazines is that they leak from the get-go, from the minute you get them. I bought this one and it was leaking pretty much as soon as I took it out of the packaging, which is why we're going to solve that problem today. 9 times out of 10 it'll be the O-ring that I'm going to show you just now, and once you lubricate that O-ring, you shouldn't have any further problems with leaking. So let's get started. What are we going to need? Well, first of all, I'm going to have to put this down, as I always do, so that we don't damage the top that we're working on here. First thing we want to do with this magazine, now even though it's leaking, there is still going to be some pressure in the magazine, and the last thing you want to do is start undoing screws on it and not release the pressure. So remember, I showed you this valve on the back here before. Normally I don't advise to vent a magazine in this manner, but to ensure that there is no gas in it, we can press that down, and as you can see, that's vented all the gas out. So there is now no gas in this magazine. I can press that as much as I want and there's no gas coming out. So that's your first port of call. Make sure that your magazine, any gas blowback, green gas magazine, will have that knocker valve on the back. Just press that in, point it away from yourself obviously when you do it. Don't point it at anything, because whatever you point it at is going to get a jet of green gas all over them. There is silicone oil on it. It could do you an injury. Don't point it at yourself, point it away, press the button, let the gas out, the magazine is then empty. Do not forget that step, otherwise you're going to have bits flying about and it could be quite dangerous when you start to dismantle the magazine. So we've now got our empty green gas magazine, we'll need that. Now in the case of these new Pro Raven magazines, we'll get to in a moment, but you do need a screwdriver. A posi drive or Phillips head screwdriver will be absolutely fine. So you need one of those. I would always recommend a bit of, you could either use workshop roll or kitchen roll, just some sort of roll, because you know you're going to be dealing with oil and grease, so you might want something to clean your hands off, indeed to wipe down your worktop, anything like that. It's always good to have a little bit of roll at hand. And then the last, but certainly not least, is silicone grease. This is Abbey silicone grease. It's not massively expensive. Now when you're oiling up your O-rings, you can by all means use silicone oil. Make sure that it is silicone oil. Don't use any kind of mineral oils or petroleum based oils, because they will degrade the rubber seal. Use silicone oil, or what I prefer to use is silicone grease. I've found that this grease seals my magazines up much more effectively than silicone oil, and the repair will last far longer. In fact, most of my magazines have had this treatment and I've yet to have a leak on them after a good couple of years since I put the grease on. Okay, so those are the items that we're going to need. Your magazine emptied, ensure it is emptied, no BBs, no gas, silicone grease, screwdriver, bit of roll to be neat. Okay, so let's start on what we're going to do. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to remove this base plate. To remove the base plate, you'll see that there's a little tab there. Press the tab in and slide the base plate forward. As it comes forward, you'll notice that we have our fill valve. We also have a Phillips head or posi drive screw. Now the magazine follower won't come springing out at this point. It is captive, but it is only captive until we remove this base. If you can make it out on camera, we have a solid base here with a fill valve in it and this screw. Now when we remove this screw, this base is going to come up, and along with the base your follower is also going to follow it. It's going to come out. Okay, so make sure you keep hold of the follower, place your screwdriver in the posi drive screw and undo the screw. I'm just going to have to put it to one side because it's quite stiff with being new. Right, okay, welcome back. Now as you can see, I've got my thumb over the magazine follower. The screw is now loosened off and it is coming out. So at this point I can grab it with my fingers and wind it out. Now you'll notice that it's a very, very long screw. You'll also notice, if you can make it out on camera, that there is a little rubber washer on the end of the screw there. That O-ring also seals gas into the magazine. Okay, so we're going to oil that up as well, but we'll put that to one side for now and we shall remove the base plate. Now it might be quite fiddly to get out because it's never been out before. It's a brand new magazine. So what we've got to do is try and get it to come out without losing all of our bits here. So we can get a hand under that lip and pull. As you can see, the follower is going to come with it. You need to keep an hold on that follower because you don't want to lose the follower. And remove the base of the magazine like so, and if you prefer you can leave the follower in, but you can see how that is just loose now. Now what I tend to do is leave that in so I know how it goes and put that to one side. We don't need that now, but you can see inside the magazine there, that's your gas well. That's where all the gas is stored, and all that keeps that gas in is a mixture of your fill valve and also this rubber o-ring here. If you can make it out, that o-ring round the bottom there, that is the o-ring that we tend to find leaks on these particular magazines. And you can also get leaks around this o-ring here, which is on the base of the screw that holds the base of the magazine in place. Okay, so what do we do to fix it? It's the easiest, cheapest fix you can ever do. Now, like I say, it's not guaranteed that this could be a leak on your magazine, but 9 out of 10 times this is where the leak occurs from what I've found. So what I'll do is I get a bit of silicone grease on my fingertip. Do this with bare hands if you prefer. I prefer to wear gloves, and then what I'll do is I'll rub that silicone grease well into the o-ring and make sure it's all the way around, thoroughly covered with silicone grease. Okay, so that's that covered in silicone grease. Now the next step is to do the same thing with the screw, with the o-ring that's on the fastening. Make sure that that o-ring is completely covered in silicone grease. Okay, so there we go. That's both those o-rings covered. Remember the bit of rag I mentioned before? Give your hands a work with that, otherwise it's going to be hard to grip anything. And then once that o-ring on the base, the big o-ring on the base is covered, then reassembly is basically just the reverse. Push your magazine follower back in, hold it with your thumb. If you can see that, I'm holding the follower with my thumb. This will only go in one way. You've got that little notch on there that holds the follower in place, so then you push that down like so. That's pushed back in. Then we take a screw, feed it back down the hole. Now this can be fiddly to get to threading. Don't cross thread the screw. Just do it with your hands to start, and then once you go in, you'll see it's threading down, and then get our screwdriver on it. And I'll cut there. I'll come back to you when I've Now you want to make sure you get that screw nice and tight. Once you've got that screw nice and tight, because remember that's holding the gas in place, so you don't want that coming loose. If that comes loose, then you are going to have a heck of a problem. And you don't want to have a problem with gas leaks in the future, and you also don't want to have a problem with this coming flying off either. Once you've done all that, you can take your base plate, get it to the edge. It's not the easiest. Make sure your follower pushes down, and then you slide it back on, and that is the job complete. That magazine is now good to go. You should be able to fill it with green gas, and you shouldn't get any leaks. And that is New Pro Raven G Series magazine, notorious for leaking. As I say, this one was brand new, was leaking out of the box. Now you put your silicone grease on the big o-ring at the bottom, silicone grease on the screw o-ring. This magazine will be absolutely fine now. There'll be absolutely no leaks in that whatsoever. Let's see if it holds some gas, shall we? Okay, this is some WE green gas. Never get these to go in right. And there we go. Magazine gassed up, no leaks. Let me just have a listen. Nope, absolutely no leaks at all. So that magazine is repaired. I'll put a link in the description as to where you can get the Abbey silicone gun grease. This isn't very expensive at all. I think at most it's about £7 or £8 for a tub, which will last you a very long time. And if you haven't got a screwdriver already, I can put a link to where you can get a decent set of screwdrivers. Always worth having in your toolbox for airsoft. And that's it. Takes you about 10 minutes. And that's your green gas mag. That should be good for years now. Now, I do hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, as I say, please drop a like on it. If you have any further questions about green gas magazines, then don't forget to put a comment at the bottom and I'll try and get back to you. And as always, if you're enjoying my series of videos, then don't forget to subscribe, and then you'll be notified every time I upload a new gameplay video or a new review or tech video. But apart from that, it's been good speaking to you, and I'll see you in the next one.